Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Silent Man podcast. My name is Javier Talamantes. I'll be your host. I'm telling you guys, I absolutely love what I'm doing right now because it's, when you wake up one day and you just feel like you're alive again, and you've got that purpose, right? And it's nothing to take away from the life that I had before. I have a lovely wife. I have, three children and one soon to be born, and I've got a grandchild. Everyone's just amazing. My wife's amazing. She supports me, even to the point where before I started this whole silent man and going into a different direction of being of service. It's she was supportive. She saw me. She saw that I needed something different. I was very successful in everything that I did before, but it was just not fulfilling. It was monetary wise, it was paying the bills, it was taking care of us, it was giving us a lovely life, but it wasn't fulfilling. And I felt like I was a taker. I felt like I was just taking from men like yourselves. I was taking from myself, I was taking from my family because I wasn't being the best version of myself. And if you're not being the best version of yourself, then really, what are you? You're almost like almost like a shell of a person. So, like I said, I just love the fact that I've got this fire now. Just this fire, just right here, and it's now burning, and it's got me where I want to do so much. Right, I want to do so much. I just want to get out there and just bring all these men together and just, and let's go ahead and learn how to go ahead and cope with all these things that are hitting us, all day long, from the moment that you get up all the way from the moment that you're going to fall asleep. And then even during sleep, you've got all these things that you're dreaming, and sometimes they're not dreams. Sometimes there's reality, and sometimes it gets blurred. And so there's so much that, like I said, I want to do, and I'm not going to do this alone, guys. I'm going to do it with you, and I'm inviting you into my life. The stripped down, no armor, 100% vulnerable, and just being of service and being here for you, And then, like I said, I think that that's our purpose here in this world. Our purpose is to be of service, to our fellow man. So. I will be posting the Silent Man Manifesto as a gift to all of you. And the only thing you'll have to do is just reach out to us, most likely through one of our social media platforms, and just request it through one of the different ways that we'll have it available to you. But you've got to get your hands on this. This is 100%, it's a gift from me to you. And it's called the Silent Man Manifesto. I worked on it diligently. And I just poured, all of myself into it, and I just came up with, something that'll help you just understand kind of like what we're going through, and it'll resonate. It might, a lot of the things just might be what's going on in your life, and the good thing about what we're doing here is that not everything has to resonate with everyone, but if one thing resonates with you, of the whole show, that's success right there. That's the success that I will take that win, and I'll take it. So let me go ahead and just read a couple of different things. I'm not too much into the reading things throughout the show, but in this case, there's just a couple of things that I want to put out there. So for men who often lose social ties due to demanding careers or the obligations of parenthood, the isolation can creep in gradually until it's deeply entrenched. They may wake up one day to realize that no close friends to call in a crisis, no one with whom they feel safe shedding a tear or confessing a fear. This kind of quiet isolation amplifies all the other pressures men face without a support network. The weight of work stress, family responsibilities, or personal struggles becomes even heavier. The silent epidemic. Remember, guys, the silent epidemic of loneliness is a critical piece of the man's mental health puzzle. We're a big puzzle, and if we don't have that piece, then we feel empty. We feel like isolation. So The other thing is going to be a coping mechanism, right? How do men cope with these internal battles? Often the coping mechanisms men adopt differ from what we typically expect, and not always in a healthy way. Since expressing sadness or anxiety is stigmatized, many men channel their distress into behaviors that mask the pain. It's common for men to turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as drinking, substance abuse, aggression, or withdrawal as outlets for their emotions. Think of it simply that you've got kids, right? And you've got these birthday parties, you've got these, nowadays they call it, play dates, and maybe you've got young children, you've got, other parents that possibly not necessarily, they not might not necessarily want to be your best friend, but they do want to be some type of friend because, the little kids or the kids get along, and it's good for them to have a healthy, relationship. So, but think about it that way. That and I'll tell you right off the bat, that's me. Okay, I've got that issue. I've got that, and I'm always working on dealing with it. And I've got those moments where it's just like like it's like pulling teeth, and I feel anxiety and I feel stress, and then I think about it, and I'm like, how bad is that going to my kid's friend's birthday party, or hanging out with another parent, because the kids get along, and I feel like it's the most frightening thing in the world, and it all comes back to, like I said, upbringing, right? Me, the way I was brought up, I didn't have many friends per se, and the ones that I did have, it was like, hey, you're my best friend. And then it was like, 2 weeks later, it was like, okay, where's my best friend? No, well, there's no more best friend. So my whole life was like that. And even now in adulthood, it's the same thing. And so I'm constantly, like I said, working on myself as well, just the way all of you are. And so that's something that we have in common. And that's something that we can also go ahead and give ourselves support with. And like I said, this show is, man, if you want to talk about some type of therapy, this is therapeutic for me to be speaking, for me to be talking, especially about myself, right? Because I don't know your stories, I don't know what you're going through, but I sure will put myself out there, because if one thing, like I said, resonates with any of you from the show, like I said, that's success. So we're going to go ahead and let's focus on coping for a couple of minutes here. So coping to me, personally, coping to me means that I'm going to hit those walls. I'm going to hit walls. I'm going to hit, these bumps in life. I'm going to go through all that. And it's basically almost like it's like a test of how I'm going to react, what I'm going to do to get past that moment, what I'm willing to give up in order to get something from it, right? Because as men, we sometimes don't want to give. We don't want to give our time. We don't want to give our energy. We don't want, unless there's something in it for us. And come on, guys, let's all be honest here. This is just the way it is. And like I said, not everyone out there, not all you men out there, but definitely a lot of us are like that. Me, being one of the culprits, I definitely am like that. And, and it's not, I'm not happy about it, but I'm also not ashamed about it, because there's no shame in it. It's just, it's a program. And like I've talked to you about in past episodes, the programs are sometimes running us, right? And even myself, right? Using myself as an example, I've done a lot of work, a lot of personal, personal work to find things out about myself, get really deep into myself, and then, pulling that out, almost like think of it like a live version of you, and really taking a look at it, and just just being there with it, right? And kind of looking at it and saying, okay, that's not pretty, right? This is not a pretty side of me. And so then you deal with it, right? And then you give in, right? Once again, there's got to be something that you give in order to receive. That's just how life is, guys. It's like work. You give your time, and they give you pay. And it's the same thing with just regular life. And so we need to go ahead and be very in tune with what's going on around us. And when you do have those moments, right? Because we all do, like I said, I have those moments every single day, 365 days a year. I've got moments in the day where it gets crazy, right? And the way I quiet my mind is I isolate. The first thing I do is, okay, well, I got a big problem. Okay, first, let's isolate that problem. And let me figure out how many solutions I've got for it, and just kind of just belt them out, this, that. And then find a solution for it and go with it. Like I said, it might not work. It might work, but at least you're going forward, moving forward. And that's going to be something that we want to talk about today as well. Always be moving forward, okay? And a lot of people say, it's because I'm in my S, right? And it's like, oh, it's because you don't understand, or you if you only knew, and the first thing I'll tell you, being a responsible man, that absolutely wants you to win, wants you to go ahead and get everything that you want in this life. Be the most amazing parent, be the most amazing husband, be the most amazing brother, and be the most amazing human that you can to other people, and so I'll be the first one to tell you that, in order for us to be able to do that, like, you've just got to just soak it in, let it soak in, let it become part of you, and be okay with the outcome. There's no right or wrong here. And remember this, okay, guys? There is no such thing as good or bad. It's what we put on it, If you're late somewhere, it could be a good or bad thing. It just depends on what you want to put on it. But ultimately, like I said, we're all human. We're not perfect. We've got things that are going on at all times. But mainly, if you really want to know the truth from my side, and like I said, I've done a lot of work, and one of them was having an accountability coach, right? And this was crazy. This was, and so before I get into the story, let me let you know, I will not let you tell your story and make it okay for whatever you're going through. It's just not going to happen. And the reason for that is because I'm enabling you to be almost crippled, right? And not being able to help yourself or fix yourself and find solutions for yourself. So, it's just not something that we're going to allow. So going back to the accountability coach, right? So I'd have to, get up in the morning, 6. It was crazy because sometimes the accountability coaches, and these were all people that were doing this on their own, right? They weren't. They were volunteers in the seminars that we were going through, and they would tell you, all right, what time do you want to call in? Sometimes it was 5 a.m, sometimes it was 4:30 a.m, sometimes it was 6, because these people also had regular jobs, so it wasn't something that you just, you were just gonna talk to somebody and say, oh yeah, my life. Oh no, it was the first thing they would ask you is, okay, great. Thank you so much for calling. And you can tell sometimes, man, some of the times when I called, the accountability coach was like, oh, hello. And I was like, oh man, I think I woke this person up. And me, I'm just like pushing my phone and I'm trying to figure out, and this was back, guys, this was like years and years back. This is not just recently. And I'd be checking my phone, right? And see, what time is it? What time? I'm checking the alarms. And so then when I would call in, the first thing out of their mouths is, okay, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? What are we going to do? And I was like, and they're just shooting at you, right? And they're just going at you and just, what are you going to do today? I said, okay, well, today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on, some files. Okay, what are those files about? What's important about them? And they were just shooting question after question after question. And then, towards the end, it was like, okay, what do you want? And I was like, well, I want to go ahead and I want to be successful. All right, what does successful look like to you? Well, successful looks like to me, like, closing, 15 loans per month. Well, what are those 15 loans? What do they stand for? Are you helping people? And so it was like, I'm telling you, it was just crazy. But the most amazing part about that, once you take all that out of the picture, was the call. Like being on the hook to make that call. And understand, guys, the accountability coach, if you did not call them, they weren't coming down your throat. All they said was this powerful message. How does this show up in your life, right? So by you not calling, it was like, how does this show up in your life? And then you're pondering, right? The whole rest of the day, you're just trying to figure out, you know what? Man, what they said was powerful. Like, yeah, like how is that affecting me in life? Like by not being accountable. And so, the thing I learned about that was we all fall through the cracks. We're all, like I said, none of us are perfect, and none of us can throw stones at each other. But the one thing that we can do is support each other. And so the way support looked like, during those accountability the coach calls was I had a buddy, right? And I think you guys heard about the buddy in the previous episode. And the buddy was powerful, right? Because I could call the buddy, and the buddy was nicer, right, than the accountability coach. Buddy would be like, so I heard you didn't make your call. And I'm like, yeah, I got so many things going on. I'm like the super successful guy. And she's like, okay, all right. Cut it out. I know you, and that's not something I'm going to take from you, all right? And over and over and over again until I finally just said, you know what? Yeah, I take full responsibility and accountability for not being on that call this morning, and I want to get back into agreement. And that's something I want to give to everyone, is the power of an agreement, right? So let's say a simple thing. You tell your wife, okay, we're going to go to dinner, XYZ during this week. And, guys, work comes up, life hits. Like I said, anything can happen, emergencies, whatever. Well, the first thing that you can do, and before I say this, understand, guys, I'm basically giving myself the same advice I'm giving you. And so the conversation would go like this. Honey, you know what? I know we have dinner on Thursday at 7, p.m. at night. We've already got the babysitter. We've got everything already lined up. And, but, something's come up, and unfortunately we will have to reschedule that. And, what can I do to be back in agreement with you? And, the wife's going to basically say, well, get me a new handbag, preferably, an expensive handbag. And then they'll wink at you and say, I'm just kidding. I understand, you're going through a lot. You've got a lot of responsibilities. And so I'm going to let you off the hook. And then I'll tell her, I don't want to be let off the hook. I just want to be back in agreement with you. My word means, the world, and giving it to you, it's very important that I keep it. And so, she'll tell me, you know what, that in itself is a gift, and thank you so much. And you don't have to do anything. We'll reschedule for another day. And see, that, guys, the gift that I just gave you is something you can utilize throughout your life on an everyday basis, with anyone in your family and anyone that you love, and even in some cases with your boss. Because, me being in a position where I've been a boss, and if somebody was to come up to me and say, look, man, the first thing is I want to admit that I'm late, and I want to get back in agreement. What can I do to get back into agreement with you in order for us to move forward from this moment? And to me, if somebody came up to me and they were my employee, the first thing I would say is, you know what? First of all, my respect for you even admitting that you were late. I mean, that shows a lot of responsibility and accountability. And then, so now moving forward, we'll have to go ahead and figure something out that it's going to be a penance or some type of payment that you'll have to make, whether it's additional time that you might have to stay over, or make it up on a different day. But the powerful part about that was, getting back into agreement. And I'll give you a quick story. There was a major meeting, huge meeting that I had to be at, and something happened, and I was basically the focal point of the meeting. I was running late for one reason or other. Something happened. But when I got to the meeting, the first thing I told everyone, there's like around 18 people, basically in a circular table. And the first thing I told everyone is, I'd like to first apologize for taking up your time, and being late, and having the meeting start late. And the second thing I want is to get back into agreement with all of you before we start this meeting and move forward. And everyone literally just looked at me and said, you know what? I wish I could do the same thing you just did right now, because I would have probably made excuse after excuse. I would have basically lied through my teeth. I would have said whatever I had to show that, like, basically, I don't need to go ahead and be accountable to anyone. So, I just want for everyone to take that gift and utilize it day in, day out throughout your life, 365 days a year, because technically it's a powerful tool that you can utilize. So going forward right now, we will be coming up with new programs, one of them being the buddy system. And we've got many more. We'll be having events also where other men like yourselves we can all meet and we can all get together. So thank you so much for another powerful, episode. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.